Welcome back for another deep dive. We're really getting into the thick of it with this month's AI Pulse newsletter, and wow, there's a lot to unpack. One thing that really caught my eye is OpenAI's new models. They're doing something really interesting with what they're calling, get this, reasoning tokens.
Yeah, reasoning tokens. It's like giving AI a thought process, well, kind of.
Kind of? What do you mean?
It's fascinating, really. We can't actually see these reasoning tokens. They're not like little thought bubbles popping up. They're more like markers of an internal thought process. It's as close as we can get to AI showing its work, which is a huge step towards making AI more transparent.
So it's less about AI actually thinking and more about us getting a better understanding of how it's coming to its conclusions.
Precisely. And these new OpenAI models, the O1 Preview and O1 Mini, they're designed to tackle some seriously complex problems. These reasoning tokens are a key part of how they do that. But it's not just about complexity, it's the sheer volume of information these models can handle. We're talking up to 65,536 output tokens. That's like processing an entire book.
That's mind-blowing. Imagine the possibilities. I mean, AI could analyze complex legal documents, diagnose medical conditions, even write entire novels, all thanks to this massive processing power.
Absolutely, the potential is huge. And it's not just OpenAI making waves. Google's also tackling a major challenge in the field, AI hallucinations.
You mean those times AI goes a little off the rails and starts generating things that are just plain wrong?
Exactly. Yeah. And Google's solution is something called Data Gemma. It aims to ground AI in real-world data, reducing the likelihood of those AI hallucinations.
It's like AI fact-checking itself in real time. I like it. But Google's not the only one focusing on bringing AI into the real world. We've got Apple jumping into the ring with their Apple Intelligence, bringing personalized AI straight to our iPhones. And it's not just about personal devices, is it? This AI infrastructure boom, it's going into overdrive, like those AI factories the EU is building.
Yeah, those are fascinating. Basically huge data centers crammed with supercomputers, all for AI development.
So developers can use them to train and refine their AI models, right? Because these massive AI models need some serious computing power.
Exactly. And the EU knows that they're putting their money where their mouth is. They want to make sure Europe is competitive in the global AI race.
Smart move. And speaking of going all in, did you catch Oracle's announcement? A supercomputer so big it needs nuclear reactors to power it. That's ambitious.
It really shows you the scale of where this technology is going. Oracle's making a statement, that's for sure. But it's not just about raw power, it's also about location, right?
Right. Like Japan's approach, using light-based tech to bring AI data centers to rural areas.
Exactly. Japan's leveraging photonics to make those data centers more sustainable and bring AI tech to places beyond the big cities. It's really interesting to see how different countries are adapting their strategies.
It is. But with all this talk about AI's power, how do we make sure it's used responsibly? That's a bit unnerving, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a huge question, and governments are trying to figure it out. The EU, for example, they just signed a new framework focused on ethical AI.
So like a rule book for responsible AI development.
Kind of. It's more about a human-centric approach, transparency, accountability, responsible data use. It builds on things like the EU's AI Act, to reduce the risks from AI, especially in those high-risk areas.
Right. So finding that balance, encouraging innovation, but with safeguards, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then you have places like Australia taking a more, proactive approach, proposing mandatory rules specifically for high-risk AI.
Australia is definitely trying to get ahead of the curve there, addressing concerns in areas like law enforcement and healthcare head-on. They're not shying away from setting some boundaries.
It's a stark contrast, then, to somewhere like Russia, where a lawmaker actually proposed banning AI from elections altogether. That's extreme.
Extreme, maybe, but it shows you how real the anxiety around AI's potential for misuse is, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as democracy. It makes you think, where do we draw the line? How do we make sure AI strengthens democracy, not weakens it?
It's really a balancing act, isn't it? The potential of AI is incredible, but we have to make sure it's used responsibly. And this isn't just a political or social issue, it's an economic one too, right?
Absolutely. Just look at OpenAI. They're considering removing their profit cap, aiming for a valuation of, get this, $150 billion. Sure. Investors clearly see the huge economic potential of AI.
It's like a gold rush everyone wants in. And it makes sense when you see how AI is changing the way we work already. We talked about Data Gemma earlier, but there are also things like GitHub Copilot that are making programmers so much more productive.
Yeah, studies show productivity boosts of up to 26%, which is huge for any industry.
But it does make you wonder about the future of work. How do we adapt to a world where AI is such a big part of it?
It's exciting, but also a bit scary. Like, how do we ensure everyone benefits from AI, not just a select few? And how do we stop it from being used for, well, bad things? We've seen those stories about AI making fake songs and manipulating streaming numbers just for profit.
Right? The same technology that can be used for good can also be exploited. The case of Michael Smith, that musician who used AI to create those fake songs and game the streaming platforms, it's a stark reminder that we need to be really careful, even in areas where we might not expect harm.
It's a lot to think about, but that's the thing with AI, right? It's always evolving, constantly throwing us curveballs.
Exactly. This AI Pulse newsletter, it's a snapshot of how fast things are moving, from reasoning tokens to AI factories in rural Japan. It's clear AI isn't some far-off thing anymore. It's here, it's now, and it's shaping our world.
And as we become more reliant on it, we need to ask those tough questions. What role do we want AI to play in our lives? How do we make sure it's used ethically and fairly?
Those are questions for everyone, not just the experts and policymakers. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we all shape with the choices we make every day.
It's a call to action for all of us. So as you go about your week, pay attention to how AI is already present in your life. Those recommendations you see online, the way you interact with your devices, it's all around us. And don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. What kind of future do you want to build with AI? That's something for all of us to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of AI. Until next time.